I think we understand, a lot of us have understood what makes black people revolutionaries, but what's going to make white people revolutionaries? And that's what you discussed
the same goddamn things that make black people revolutionary.
But it's not happening the same way.
You just wait, it will happen. You don't have to do anything to instigate it. What you can do is prevent it, or you can break it down, and you can do something. But I mean, this country is going pell-mell into fascism. I mean, the pigs are on the campus now. Next, what do you want them? Sitting up in the classroom? You want them in your door? You want them standing on the street every time you walk out?
No, kids are not on
You
the
have to
line.
wait till get to that to be revolutionary. Now, what we're saying is this school is going to close down, period.
What's the matter?
I've been getting death threats.
You mean death threats?
Not this time.
Again, you undone me! You undone me! You went along! Gone!
Have you ever noticed how supervillains always try to change things, and superheroes are the ones trying to prevent change?
So this is one of the reasons why United States politicians Israel so hard.
Maintain that it was your employer, Robert Maxwell, owner of the Daily Mirror. You say that he was an Israeli agent, and as was his daughter.
He was not my employer. I would like to correct that.
Okay.
We worked together with him.
And you say that his daughter Ghislaine also, though, worked for Israel, and it was Robert Maxwell who introduced Jeffrey Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell way before the 1990s, as mainstream media is reporting.
Correct.
I suppose what the most alarming allegations that you've been making are that the entire Epstein operation was a honey trap operation to entrap politicians, policymakers, celebrities, people in the media eye, basically to become Israel's assets.
Correct. That's it became basically an intelligence operation to entrap different politicians.
Robert Maxwell was a Czechoslovakian Jew, didn't speak Hebrew or didn't claim the religion, but he owned the biggest newspaper in the UK, and he was also a triple secret agent for both MI6, KGB, and Mossad Israeli intelligence. And notice the country that's missing in that statement. He was not a spy for the United States, he was a spy to the United States, as in he used his daughter and Jeffrey Epstein to blackmail US politicians that would visit Jeffrey Epstein's island.
The higher the socks, the downer the fool, the bigger the torta, the more I'ma do.
I'm a 35-year-old white man.
And when did you know that you were a 35-year-old white man?
Well, I've always felt different. I go to the store, the movies, and just be thinking to myself, like, why am I not getting the respect I deserve? Mm-hmm. And then it just hit me. I'm white and 35.
Hand grenades, very important. If you use hand grenades, please use vegan grenades.
I know a ton of white people that are as lazy and sorry and probably worse than black people I know.
Let me say this. So this word aloha, alofa, alo means forward.
Mm-hmm.
So in Samoa they're saying, bring everything to the front. Do everything forward. Right? So the word means alo means. So alo means your front.
Mm-hmm.
Alo means your children. That comes from you, from the front.
Mm-hmm.
So the word aloha, alofa means everything is brought to the open. So we can all, it's transparency.
Mm-hmm.
It's called in Samoa called lumame, which is bring everything to the front so we can all see. And nothing is done in the back.
Nice.
Ten days later, the kale in water is crisp and green, yellow is soft and browning, blue is shriveled and dry on the edges, red is dead. Completely dead. Red food dye is one of the most toxic. It's made from petroleum or coal. It's been linked to ADHD, cancer, and DNA damage.
Something I say in the book is that the audience comes last. And I believe that. I'm not making it for them. I'm making it for me. And it turns out that when you make something truly for yourself, you're doing the best thing you possibly can for the audience. So much of why, if you go to the movies, so many big movies just not good, it's because they're not being made by a person who cares about it. They're being made by people who are trying to make something that they think someone else is going to like. And that's not how art works. That's something else. It's not art. That's commerce. So if we're making art, it's almost like a diary entry. So could I be concerned that someone else might not like my diary entry? It doesn't make sense. It has nothing to do with them. My diary entry has nothing to do with anyone else. So everything we make as artists are essentially diary entries.
So humming increases that nitric oxide 15-fold. And there was one study that showed this guy completely got rid of his rhinitis just by humming for about 10 minutes, 4 times a day. The humming also helps to calm the body down because we have the vagal nerve, right? Vagus nerve, vagal tone is right along here. So when you hum, you're sending signals to the vagus nerve and you're calming your body down. Humming is stimulating more nitric oxide and allowing it to break free from all of those tissues.
So you hum in your nose like,
This is a scientific principle. Here, at this point of the earth, the mind is in what is called beta, about 26 cycles per second. Okay? As you energize and start to move upward into the second stage of consciousness, your mind starts to move into that area called alpha, which is about 14 cycles per second. When then you rise further up past the air into that which is the fire, you go into that which is called theta, which is approximately 8 cycles per second, and then you reach that which is called delta, and you are at about 4 cycles per second. 4, 8, 14, 26, something like that. This is a normal thing here, and the normal thing has to be changed. In other words, what all this gobbledygook in the Bible is about is that you've got to reduce the number of cycles per second in your brain from 26 down to at least 14. If you don't do that, you're not going anywhere. As long as you're at 26, you're going to be steeped in chaos, confusion, fighting, screaming, turmoil. Kids are going to be against you. You're going to be against kids. People are going to bomb one another, shoot one another, kill one another, because it comes out of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which pulsates at 26 cycles per second. Doesn't make any difference what you do. Doesn't make any difference how many books you read. Doesn't make any difference how good you think you are, how many times you go to church. If that's at 26 cycles per second, you're a nut, I'm a nut, and you're going to be in chaos constantly.
The solar system is a soul system. We started in the stars, then we incarnated into the heart of the soul system, which rearranged spells Earth. You descended from spirit into matter. The soul luring system lures your soul deeper into matter, which are the lower 3 chakras. You are the mind and soul, not the physical body. If you die and your mind is still attached to these worldly physical things, you will want to reincarnate here. The body corresponds with the higher and the lower self. You need to get out of power, food, and you know what, into the higher chakras, so that your mind is not attached to the worldly things when you die from here. This is why they get you so addicted to clothes and all of these physical things. The fast food restaurants are red, orange, and yellow because they keep you here. You need to connect with your true divine self, which is inside of the pineal gland. This is the Holy Grail, your neck and head, because the Holy Grail out of the physical world and ascension is connecting with your true consciousness form. You need to be united, not divided. You need to turn the masculine and feminine energies into balance, because heaven has the word even in it. You have to become even because your consciousness has no gender. The devil is the deveil. You deveil yourself by having these mental addictions to the worldly things. The soul luring system is inside of you. You have to deveil yourself out of the 7 seals in the Bible. The 7 seals are the 7 chakras because they seal your true self.
How many Master Masons know that there are Satanists among them?
I'd say the same figure I quoted earlier, 1 in 1,000.
Right. Since Catholics are strictly forbidden to be Masons, why were you being asked to do 2 opposite things?
What people don't realize is that the Catholic Church helped start the Masons. And that, for example, the Scottish Rite, most of the degrees in the Scottish Rite were written by Jesuits. So even though there is this apparent antipathy between the Masons and the Catholics, to the point that up until John Paul II's reign, if you became a Mason, you were Roman Catholic, you were de facto excommunicated, just like that. But actually it's all a sham, because most of the high level of people in the Vatican are all Freemasons, and many of the people that are Freemasons are Catholics.
Do you know about alchemical sexual alchemy? There's 33 vertebrates in your spine. There's 33 years in the life of Jesus. Christ, yeah. So this substance comes from your medulla, makes the trip down your spine to your sacrum, which is Christ coming down into human form. Yeah. And if you don't squander that essence, that sexual essence, it ascends again and goes back up to heaven, which is your thing. It's also the story of Santa Claus. Why he comes down the chimney is because this juice or this whatever substance actually passes what's called the claustrum, which is where they got Santa Claus. So it goes down the chimney and back up the chimney.
All children that have little tiny pimples on the backs of their arms or little tiny pimples here on the edges of their cheeks have 5 varieties of critters in them. 5 varieties. It's time to deworm and it's time to get them out. Now what I found out is that vibration and frequency is everything. It is literally everything. If you take an aspirin, it changes the way you vibrate. And so it blocks the nerves so that you can't feel pain. If you take deworming programs, you change your vibration, and you change your vibration so dramatically that the worms and parasites either have to get out of you, this is no longer a good home, or they die in you. And then your lungs and your liver and all that stuff handle it. And you do it with water.
The man behind LCD Technologies demonstrated that he could imprint an image from his mind into liquid crystals. Marcel Vogel was a scientist at IBM for 27 years, where he received 32 patents for his inventions. One of his most remarkable discoveries came when he focused his mind on a liquid solution of cholesterol for an hour, visualizing the image of Mother Mary. The figure then visibly appeared in the liquid crystals, proving that crystals could receive and hold imprints coming directly from the human mind. After working with liquid crystals, he applied these concepts to create the famous Vogel crystal. He received a vision of the Tree of Life as the key pattern for cutting a clear quartz crystal into the optimal resonant shape for cohering thought and energy, creating a master healing tool. Any thought put into a Vogel crystal will be held, amplified, and transmitted energetically into other systems.
Your brain is always looking for evidence to confirm what you have told it. So if the story in your mind is things are always shit and never working out for me, your brain is going to cherry pick everything in your life that reinforces that. This is why when people start to say things like, show me how it gets better, I know it can get better than this. It starts to, because your brain is going to start looking for evidence for that to be true. It's a confirmation bias, and it doesn't have to be rooted in negativity. Your brain will start to cherry pick the things that are good, and that show that life has the capacity to be better. Your mind is just doing its job. It's looking for proof to reinforce the reality that you have created for yourself out there. So be intentional about the reality you're creating.
Just as a heads up, we lost about $3.8 trillion this year in military spending that we're currently not able to track. Oh, yeah, we also have about $5 trillion that we spent during the pandemic that we don't really know where it went. On that note, we have a $30 million F-35 fighter jet that we're actually not able to track right now either. It got lost. Speaking of missing money, there is this single mother in Alabama who hasn't paid us $2.12. So I'm thinking we send her to jail.
And God sent that man that day to open up those heavens. Shoo, hallelujah.
White people have invented a language to conceal their sins. It's as simple as that.
A full-grown woman taking a doll out of a child's hair? Got my doll. I got my doll.
Board of Directors, Scott Gottlieb, led me to this company called Resilience. Also note Illumina, just for a second. And looking into resilience, oh boy. I was just wondering why the CEO of In-Q-Tel, the CIA's investment asset management group, was on the board of this weird biotechnology company. What I didn't realize is that Resilience partnered with...
The CIA doesn't kill anybody anymore. They neutralize people. Or they depopulate the area. The government doesn't lie, it engages in disinformation. The Pentagon actually measures nuclear radiation in something they call sunshine units. Israeli murderers are called commandos. Arab commandos are called terrorists. Contra killers are called freedom fighters. Well, if crime fighters fight crime and firefighters fight fire, what do freedom fighters fight?
Can I show you a magic trick by any chance?
Yeah, show me a magic trick, please!
Okay! Pick a number in a normal set of cards, 2 to 10.
8.
8 of what?
Spades?
8 of spades? Ah, man, I'm so close.
Wait!
Yo, what's going on? How's your day been?
It's been good.
Is this your card?
Brushing your teeth is the only time you clean your skeleton.
We'll
be right back after these messages on Soulbeat. Number 1.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. TJ Robinson and your Gingerbread family would like to welcome you to Gingerbread House. This is a building that TJ has opened for private dinner parties, luncheons. Also, it's a place to relax and wait in between your seatings. And if you would like, we'd love to have a tea time party with you.
Wait, you're charging Negroes more than 20%? There's no way anyone can get out from under that.
If your bank wasn't legally prohibited from lending the Negroes, you do the same.
Within reason.
6%, fellas, huh? Let's get this done. The city will approve any new Southland Trust development in East Compton once all the original owners have sold.
Not a given.
Tell me my fucking business. Chicago, Baltimore, Lansing,
Oakland, Seattle.
Now that was foresight. Move just one black family into a decent white neighborhood, and the other homeowners will throw money at you faster than you can count it.
Negroes aren't stupid. Given a choice, even they don't want to live among other Negroes.
Nothing more American than people willingly paying double for something they can't afford in the first place.
And what happens once they realize they have been swindled?
Well, you could always ask Miss Koister if you could borrow a sanitary napkin.
If they make their mortgage payments, we win. If they default, we win.
Oh, you pray they miss their nut, and then you put those houses right back on the market.
At another markup.
And by this time, it's an all-Negro neighborhood.
An entire population of Negroes who can't secure traditional mortgages.
Do you need an abacus?
Uncle, 6%.
Oh, there you go.
A man set himself on fire to tell the world what's happening in Congo. The Western countries have given financial and military support to groups in Uganda and Rwanda who have been instructed to enslave the Congolese people to work and mine a resource called cobalt. What is cobalt? Cobalt is a resource that is inside your phone, or the lithium found in electric cars. It's all derived from cobalt. The countries who are pushing to have this is France, America, and the British. The world is distracting us with many things, but a silent cleanse is taking place with the people of Congo who refuse to work or are being forced to work so the West can take these resources. The media is not covering them. Go search for anything Congo related, and you will see how little coverage they are getting.
Diamonds are a great example of how desire has been manufactured. Again, the most important thing to know about diamonds, there's two major myths. The first myth about diamonds is that diamonds are rare, and they're not. Diamonds are really common, and their value does not come from their scarcity. In the 20th century, in fact, has been the story of how diamonds have been restricted from entering the market. The second myth about diamonds is that they're connected in some intrinsic way, to love and to marriage and to courtship. And again, this is a story that was created around 1947 when a copywriter at the NWA's advertising agency in Madison Avenue, not far from here, came up with the slogan that diamond is forever. And the diamond is forever was an attempt to make diamonds a mass consumer item.
You're a loser.
Wow.
How am I supposed to be with you when I got these men all the time in my DMs offering me luxury cruises, mansions?
What is the nothing?
It's the emptiness that's left.
This is expensive. I gotta maintain with Botox. You don't want me looking older. I gotta take care of myself. You don't pay for that. You have all these expectations on me that you can't even provide.
It is like a despair, destroying this world. And I have been trying to help it.
But why?
Because people who have no hopes are easy to control. And whoever has the control has the power.
Something about the symbol of the eye, which the first time I read Lord of the Rings, I was like, I don't really know what this eye is. It just kind of appeared. It's much clearer if you watch the film what the eye is, but it is an eye that never looks inward. It is an eye that is always looking out. It's always grasping, seeking, moving outward. It's kind of interesting that the whole premise of Lord of the Rings is taking a part of the evil power back to itself. And when it is brought back to the heart of where it was made and unmade, it is completely destroyed. In many ways, a ring is like a representation of an eye. And by bringing the I back in and turning it in on itself, evil is unmade. So I guess I would say to that the relationship between the I and evil is that it can't look at itself, and if it does, then it is no more.
Faith is the substance, the title to the deed of the substance of things hoped for. I just got another good one.
All of this shit is a colonial hangover. All of their mathematics is similar. Your mind is a part of your body and your spirit as well, and you got to check up and check in. In American life, so many relationships are transactional. Like, you give me this, and I give you that. The way that we socialize sometimes is not around like actual human connections.
I gotta maintain with Botox.
At this point in my life, I'm looking to be as good as a friend as I can to my friends and loved ones. It's a lot of us that have a lot of love and respect and admiration for each other. We never talk. And I don't know what, I got a lot of different reasons with what that may be a function is, like, you know, colonial hangover or whatever.
I got 9.9 out of 10 after 327 women rated me. Let's see your talent.
I'm a turkey gobbling champion.
Let's see your talent, you ugly piece of.
Okay, stop. Hey, look at me.
Let's
look
see
at
your
me.
talent.
No,
huh?
hey. No, you need to look at me.
I don't have to do.
Soccer versus football is one of the more ridiculous conversations that I have on a regular basis.
Why do the Americans insist on calling it soccer?
And what's so ridiculous about this, soccer is a word developed in England.
In 1863, a bunch of people in England got together and they formed what came to be known as the Football Association. And the term association has always been crucial to the identity of the sport. But the word association is long, and so it's often shortened to ASOC. In the 1890s, British schoolboys had a habit of taking the first syllable of a word and adding the letters ER to it to make it their own.
The word rugby became rugger. The word champagne became champers.
But the problem with the word association is that the first syllable is the word ass. So they skipped over the first syllable and went to the second syllable, SOC, and that's why we play soccer and not asser.
F*** 'em. If you told us it was soccer.
Can I just say,
what?
You look like a gay cowboy and you look like a gay terrorist.
No, you look like a terrorist with a broken windscreen wiper and your face is ridiculous.
Kindness is a form of intelligence and brilliance. As black, as white, as money, is all unequal. The adjectives can never be nouns. We are the people.
Whoa, hush up a second, okay? I got one more thing to say. I've just signed another $200 million drawdown from the Department of Defense for Ukraine, and that'll be coming quickly. Thank you.
The real McCoy, delicious hickory smoked meats with an original Louisiana recipe passed on down through generations. So order barbecue beef spare ribs, barbecue beef links, chicken, and barbecue ribs. So call for the real McCoy and delicious Louisiana barbecue.
All of this shit is a colonial hangover.
Instead of letting our faith be dictated to by our heart and what God said. There it is again, so strong.
Who are you really?
I am the servant of the power behind the nothing. I was sent to kill the only one who could have stopped the nothing. I lost him in the swamps of sadness.
Is that I know that my marriage ended because he didn't speak up about the things that he didn't like until he already resented me. And so resentment is a feeling that is all too familiar, you know, just like coming from parents and things like that.
Right.
And so the fear is sometimes not that I won't do what I need to do, but sometimes you might not tell me the thing. And with men, they'll smile through so much, or it's like, oh, it's not that big a deal because they feel like, oh, I'm not mad about it anymore. So it's not a big deal anymore. And so because men do really well with their masculine traits or being decisive or whatever, I think that they can get away with not being okay with something for a longer time than women can. Someone that has their boundaries in check, because your boundaries, when you instill a boundary with me, it tells me that you want me around. I don't want you to do this because I don't care for that, and I don't want you doing things that I don't care for, you know? And so getting a better relationship with that, I think, is something that I'm looking forward to, believe it or not. Because if somebody willing to correct you and have that awkward conversation, it's because I want you here.
That part.
Now stop doing that shit.
Come talk to me. Come here. Mason, go to the circle. Come here, Jaquez.
That's my pen.
What's wrong?
Soraya was lying on me when I never did anything.
Okay, did you get in trouble? So why are you upset?
Because I don't want her lying on me.
Okay, do you know the truth? Can you control other people? Who can you control?
Yourself.
Yep, and do you know the truth? That's all that matters, right? You know the truth. Okay, do you have control over other people and what they say and do? No. I can tell that right now someone else has control over your emotions, right? Okay, so you take back control. 3 pretzel breaths. Come on. 1, 2. Right, get sturdy. Go to class. Go to class. Hey. All right. Happy days. Happy days. Okay, go join the circle.
A lot of these adults now are regretting having children so early to the point where they're putting their happiness before their kids' development. And by them putting their happiness before these kids' development, they're not really caring. So when they are giving these kids, I don't think 5-year-olds should have cell phones or these certain type of video games. Yeah, have a PlayStation or something like that. But for these phones, I seen a clip of a video where the kid had an iPad in his lap and he had a phone in his hand, and he going back and forth, scrolling both, trying to see which one. And whenever one stopped, he going back and forth, back and forth. Then they had another baby about 3 years old laying on the table crying, doing this to the ear of the with no phone in his hand. That bad to where he's that addicted to it. The dopamine is killing these kids and doing whatever they doing. Like I said, these parents don't really, it's like, you don't want to really regret your kids, but some people do. I hate to say it. They mad. It's not that you really regret them, but you like, man, I should have developed myself a little more before I got a chance to start raising these kids. It ain't no joke. Once I got them, it's over. Now these is for life. And now you regretting a lot of things. So that's the process of trying to be a friend to a 7-year-old or a 10-year-old when they need your guidance and they need your discipline to keep them from being a certain way.
Hi. How are you? Good. How are you doing? What are you doing? How are you doing? Huh? What are you doing? What are you doing with that? We're trying to figure out how to put gas in the car. I'm sorry, not gas, but in the tire. Can you help me instead of taking the... You know what that is? No. What is it? That's propane. Oh, shit. Oh. Thank you for letting us know. Yeah. Where is the...
And their place in him as the... Hallelujah.
The Draconians are here now. Where?
There are 1,833 of them that have been living underground between 100 and 200 miles beneath the surface. They've been here, some of them have been here a long, long time. They have lifespans that are thousands of years. They're carnivorous. They are not friendly to mankind, at least the ones that are here.
Are you saying carnivorous, they eat humans?
Yes. And they won't eat a dead human. It has to be alive at the time of the killing. Their preference is children. You know, and we've been told, people say, well, you better not talk about the reptilians. Well, you know, bull. You know, why not? According to the Andromedans, they're responsible for 31,712 children disappearing in the last 25 years from the United States. These children were food. And I'm supposed to just shut up and not say anything about it because people don't want to hear it? That's tough. That's tough. You know, Westchester County, in the last 5 years, 3,000 children in the Westchester County, New York, have vanished without a trace. Where are they going? Why are we allowing this to happen? And why should people stay in denial about it?
Now, how are they able to do this? How are they able to? How are they able to? How are they able to do it? How are they able to come up out of this from underground and do it, or do they have?
There are tunneling systems everywhere. They're being helped by the Greys, and also there are groups within the higher echelon that are actually helping them acquire this.
So human beings are abducting the kids and getting them to the Greys, who in turn give them to the Alpha Draconans?
That's right. That's part of the deal. They won't come up as long as we feed them down there. You understand? It's about human beings selling themselves out. The echelon attitude here, the needs of the few outweigh the needs of humanity.
A devastating discovery has been made in Canada. The remains of 215 children have been found buried at the site of a former boarding school for Indigenous students. The school in British Columbia was part of a nationwide scheme that took in First Nations children in an effort to assimilate them into Canadian society. Investigations have shown there was widespread abuse.
In mid-October of 1964, kissing cousins Elizabeth and Philip paid a royal visit to a Catholic residential school for Aboriginal children in Kamloops, British Columbia, Canada. William Coombs was 12 years old at the time of the royal visit. "I was an inmate at the Kamloops school when we were visited," said Coombs. "I remember it was strange because they came by themselves, no big fanfare or nothing. But I recognized them, and the school principal told us it was the Queen. And we all got given new clothes and good food for the first time in months the day before she arrived."
Wow, this is an amazing place I've just discovered. Discovered? Well, I've lived here all my life, and I don't like taking it from you, buddy. But it's destiny, unfortunately. Manifest destiny, have you heard of it? Not a reader, no. Get out, okay? But if you resist, it's actually my God-given right and duty to murder you and your entire family. What the I know. God's mental, isn't he? What to do? You could change everything about yourself and be more like me? I wouldn't mind you around the place so much then. I don't want to be like you. And by the way, are you sick? Should you even be? No, I'm fine. It's just a small pox. Suppose we could share, like I get the kitchen, bedrooms, living room, attic, okay for you?
I am lost.
Many people incorrectly think that indigenous people from the USA are somehow different from indigenous people from Latin America, but this is such a wrong way of thinking about it. Take for instance the Diné, aka the Navajo people, who reside in New Mexico, Arizona, and Utah. These states, along with Texas and a couple of others, were taken by the U.S. from Mexico as part of the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo and the annexation of Texas. If that never happened, then the Diné, along with the Apache, Hopi, Tongva, and other indigenous groups in these territories, would today technically be part of Mexico.
Shy Girl and her friends, Bandit, Beaver, and Wicked, are going out to kick it, to get down, to defend their hood, their neighborhood. They will use whatever it takes.
Box cutters, knives, guns, screwdrivers, bottles, Uzis, everything.
I miss San Jose, homie. From all the bomb tacos to all the cool people. Let me say what's up to this bird real quick.
I got nothing to lose. Rock peepas like cradles, I go 10 to 2.
Well, that ain't right. It's fake.
I can zoom. That's fake.
No, it ain't.
That's a drone.
A drone can't go that high, bro.
Don't underestimate.
What is that? No,
that ain't no fucking plane, you asshole.
No fucking plane, Santa Claus. It's a plane. Yo, it's moving.
It's going back and forth.
It's going up.
Yep, it's going
Fuck
up.
you, it's going up. You can't get no light out of that on no fucking plane.
Planes go up, don't they?
Not like that.
Yes, they do. What does Joe have you convinced you to space?
Do you see all the sections?
Joe has you convinced you to space?
Asshole, look!
Check that out, guys. This star's called Vega. Look at that. It's beautiful. Now, technically, this is out of focus. But look how beautiful that is. Wow. It's just gorgeous. It's electric looking, like pure energy. Oh, wow. Look at that. It's just beautiful.
Take a drink of that promised land.
First, let's revisit what Destiny put together in her thread. She pointed out that when you go to usaspending.gov and you look up contracts that Resilience Government Services has had with the government, they're getting funded by our government to the tune of $142 million all the way back in 2013 and $66 million in 2020? But they're also known by 7 other names. Nanosphere, Nanotherapeutics, Ology. But I noticed that this address that they give on this website is not the same as on Resilience's own website. So I double checked us and made sure that Resilient Government Services that's getting these awards is this website. Just to make sure we're all on the same page. Yeah, we're on the same page. When you look up Resilience on Crunchbase, they're being funded by the U.S. International Development Finance Corp, the Department of Defense, Google, Lux Capital. They've apparently raised $2.5 billion. If you look up Nanosphere on Crunchbase, they've been funded by Allen & Company and Bain Capital. But now let's dig into the team at Resilience, starting with Robert Nelson, better known as Bob. Whitney Webb put me on to this article where Bob Nelson is real tight with Luciana Borio. Apparently, it was actually talking to Borio on the phone about her work running the pandemic.
Oh, I'm going like everywhere with it. Tell me. That's the whole point of a jacket. I'm gonna go like when I go to a party, I'm be wearing that. Like when I go like snow tubing, I'm gonna wear that. And then when it be cold outside, I'll be wearing that, bro. So like when I go rollerblade, I'm gonna wear that.
At 632-0646, McCoy's Barbecue at 6432 East 14th Street.
Oh, hell no, I never knew that. I never knew that this whole time, my whole life. I've been on the earth for a long time. I just been laying my ground beef and my meats in there flat. I didn't know the little lines. You see that? Them little lines is how you supposed to put the meat in there like books.
What do you think is missing from some of today's music?
Talent.
One vegetarian pizza. It's $12.50.
By the way, if it makes you feel any better, I happen to like 8-year-old boys.
A little blurb update today on Epstein. It was showing a photo of him at Disney. He's sitting down at the table, Piglet's behind him. It's him and another guy sitting down, and this guy's holding this girl, like by her arms like this. That same girl is in another photo with Epstein. They're on the plane. She's like she's sleeping, she's laying down, and he's holding her like this. Then, come to find out, Disney sent kids to his island for snorkeling trips for like 9 years.
Snorkeling.
And their cruise ships made stops at his island all the time.
Dude.
And you're saying, I'm assuming, that history is being manipulated for an end.
In itself.
In itself.
History, the Europeans began to manipulate history when they rose and began to expand into the broader world in the 15th and the 16th century. Because they had to justify the slave trade and they had to justify the colonial system that followed. And modern racism has its incubator incubation in that period. You cannot enslave a man and say he's a human being, that he has humanity, and that he was one of the forerunners of the world's religion. You cannot enslave an African and say this about him, because if you say he's a human being, then you're saying he's an extension of you. Then you cannot sell an African Christianity and call him a heathen and acknowledge the African contribution toward the creation of Christianity. So it's a contradiction in acknowledging that the man created Christianity, then come back and say that you are selling him Christianity because he is a heathen. So the European had to literally strip history of the contributions of non-European people.
Welcome to JR Bookstore. We have the largest selection of African American books in the East Bay. We are located at store number 27, Foothill Square. Please come in.
Welcome to Art's Crab Shack Restaurant and Lounge, located at 4031 Broadway in Oakland. Fried prongs, sauteed prongs, shrimp salad, prawn cocktail, crab sandwich, crab cakes, crab gumbo, sauteed crab, filet catfish, red snapper, filet of sole, fried oysters, fried chicken wing dinners, Reuben sandwiches, quesadillas, short ribs, garlic bread, peach cobbler, large or small. For takeout,
we begin with that breaking headline today: a Michigan doctor sentenced, being called a monster. A day of reckoning for the doctor who diagnosed hundreds of patients with cancer when they did not have it. Outside the court, the tears and anger. He lied to so many patients, giving many of them extensive chemotherapy, which then made them sick. So many of those families today coming face to face with the doctor as he was sentenced to 45 years behind.
Get over here!
Finish him.
Let's start with the insane amount of sugar that these drinks have. These drinks can have anywhere between 12 to 16 teaspoons of sugar in them. Every one of their drinks, they use lab-synthesized natural flavors to make that taste irresistible to you. A good majority of their drinks are full of the following chemicals. Some of their well-known drinks contain potassium sorbate, which is genotoxic to white blood cells and can cause cancer. And lastly, that whipped cream they use to top off your drink contains carrageenan, which is linked to intestinal inflammation and cancer.
Remember how to make rooting agent. No need to spend money to buy it. Prepare a cup of warm water. Add a spoonful of brown sugar, a spoonful of baking soda. Add a few drops of white vinegar. After 24 hours of sealed fermentation, homemade rooting water is ready. Use this recipe for root irrigation. Allows plants to take root quickly, improve the soil, promote plant growth.
In Scandinavia, we put our babies outside to sleep in the prom. And that is like to get more resistant to the cold, but also to increase our immune system. And we still do that in Denmark.
Do you really?
Yeah, we do.
Babies are taken out in the cold?
In the snow, in frosty rain, everything, because it's like very good for them and they get a better immune system and get resilient to the cold. I have heard people coming from the US saying Danes are crazy. They put their babies outside in proms and leave them there, and then they go inside and drink coffee on the cafes.
It's not like I have anything against white guys. I just feel like white guys do tend to go for white girls more.
Are you not?
I'm not white.
You're definitely white though, because everyone in this room thought you were white. So
yeah,
you look exotic.
So what do you?
I hate to break it to you because you don't
my-
have as many oppression points, but you're white.
Like my race is white, but my ethnicity, I'm Hispanic. Both of my parents were born and raised in Mexico.
But there's
Okay.
white Mexicans.
Yeah.
So you're white though.
You have
That's
blue eyes and
what we're saying.
fair skin.
If humans can only hold their breath for 10 minutes, then how was Louis Armstrong able to become the first man on the moon?
This is the ultimate what not to do for your first trip to Japan. Number 1, don't blow your nose in public. Locals see this as unsanitary and disrespectful to those around you, so sniffing is all you should do, especially on public transit. Number 2, do not disrespect lines and queuing up. Just because you're a foreigner doesn't mean you can act however you want. Number 3, do not try to open the doors when taking a taxi. They're all automatic and drivers will open them for you. Number 4, do not take phone calls, eat or drink on trains, but notice that locals are very quiet and clean and this is how they like it. Number 5, do not wear shoes inside and don't wear your house slippers in the toilet. There are 2 different types of slippers for a reason. Number 6, do not forget to wear a mask if you are sick. In Japan, people care about those around them. Please, people do not want to be sneezed or coughed on. Number 7, don't play around with your chopsticks. Don't stab or poke your food. Never leave your chopsticks standing up in a bowl. Do not point to anyone while holding them. Number 8, do not tip here. While the service might be amazing everywhere, tipping is just not part of the culture, so please do not give money to your server because this will embarrass them. Number 9, do not dress poorly or look like you just woke up. Many of the locals care about how they look like, so this is just something to keep in mind. Number 10, do know escalator etiquette. In Tokyo, you stand on the left and let people walk on the right, while in Osaka, you stand on the right and let people go on your left. So don't be that inconsiderate person blocking the entire way. And lastly, do not pour your own drink. It's respectful to pour for those around you. You should never pour your own drink and just instead let the waiter do it for you.
Drop it to the flow, drop it to the flow then. Now lean then. Turn around then. Turn around then. Now wiggle, 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 wiggle. Play dead like.
Did you know your washer has a filter that needs to be cleaned every month? You'll see a little cutout at the base of your washer. Give it a click. Then you're going to see your filter here and a drain line. And whatever you do, don't unscrew the filter before draining the water. Next, you want to unhook this drain line and you'll see it has a plug in the end of it. Grab yourself a shallow Tupperware container. Pull the plug out of the drain line and then tip the drain line into your Tupperware container. And allow this to completely drain out before you remove the filter. Next, you're going to unscrew the filter and pull it out. And that is really gross. Now you're going to want to run this under some water and clean it off. Now we're going to slide the filter back in and turn it to the right until it's tight. Put the plug back in the end of the drain line and close the access door.
I could not resist, so I had to look it up. From the Office of National Statistics, from a 2019 study, in ever-increasing numbers, we are now at a lesbian divorce rate of 72%. So the top 4 reasons that they are reporting getting divorced is feeling ignored, inequality in the partnership, adultery, and domestic violence. Personally, I feel like this lends some weight to men's arguments and complaints about how women are behaving in relationships. Because when you have lesbian divorce statistics that look like that, the girls are kind of telling on themselves.
People tell me, well, you were so mean to Ellen Page. And I think, well, you know, Ellen Page is a star and she advertised her transformation and made the claim that this has revolutionized her life. And then she displayed her new body in a public forum and got 1.7 million Instagram likes for it and probably enticed, well, let's say one young girl who's confused into becoming sterile, which is one too many for me, but it could be as many as what, 100, 500, 1,000? And I have my tendency to feel a hell of a lot more sorry for a set of confused, isolated, and lonely pubescent girls who have no one to love them enough to help them appreciate who they are than I do for one overprivileged and unfortunately confused narcissistic Hollywood star.
Charlie!
What?
What are you doing?
Where?
There, with her!
Who?
Her! How could you?
What?
That!
When?
When I came in, you and she would...
Who?
You know very well who, that woman there.
Where?
Charlie!
What?
You and that woman!
What woman?
The one who just left!
When?
But Charlie,
What?
aren't you even ashamed of yourself?
Why?
Because of...
In a nutshell, we found several other things using open source data. There is a gentleman named Eric Lutzen, and he has matched up a list. He started looking at voters above the age of 80 that were registered for voting and did vote on in Michigan, and 17,327 Michigan voters also had a corresponding obituary. And I didn't print that whole thing out, but I can give you that website for the tabular data.
United States of America, to the Republic, for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
They began to just start cutting off his body parts. Part of the torture is they began to cut off his genitalia. They cut off one piece, stuff it in his mouth, and force him to eat it. And the crowd is like, yeah! And they cut off some more of his genitalia, stuff that in his mouth, and eat it. So you can imagine this man is standing there before the throng, bleeding, forced to eat his own flesh. And there is no sense of humanity anywhere in the air. Then they start cutting off his fingers and throwing them to the crowd like a souvenir. And the crowd is like, more, 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 more. And Claude is there bleeding to death, being branded with hot irons. And finally, after no more, then strung up. This is the spectacle lynching of Claude Neal. That was horrific enough. But what, in fact, makes it beyond egregious is then the response of the law enforcement officials. The NAACP immediately sent folks down to investigate this lynching. They went to Alabama and they said, Alabama's, there's no crime committed here because he wasn't killed here. So they went to the officials in Florida. Florida said, he's not from here. No crime committed because he's not from here. Now, I didn't realize that anywhere in the statute dealing with murder, it said you had to be from that space in order for that to be a murder. But the NAACP thought, we now have on the books the Lindbergh kidnapping law, based on the kidnapping of Charles Lindbergh's baby, that therefore makes it a crime, a federal crime, to take somebody and transport them against their will across state lines. So the NAACP goes to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI. J. Edgar Hoover says, no crime committed here because nobody asked for a ransom. That is what justice looked like for Claude Neal, and so for so many African Americans during the Great Depression.
When I bring up Zwarte Piet, you're going to bring that shit up for me right now. This is what they do. This is what they do in Amsterdam. Now they do it. Sinterklaas is an old school, like Santa Claus, he has like a Pope hat. Yeah. Sinterklaas. Zwarte Piet means black. Peter. So he has these helpers that go through the chimney and then they get soot on their face and they're supposed to have like dirty faces. Of course, some of these racist white folks can't wait to just put black face. They put pink lips and afros and walk in front of black children and parade this shit. You know what they call black people in Amsterdam when they want to insult them? What? Fuck you, Zwarte Piet. I mean, but I also praise the white Dutch's people that are protesting it and trying to, and and the police are whooping their ass, like beating them up. Peaceful protesting. Hey, could you not wear blackface and getting beat up for that? Really? We want to keep wearing blackface.
Right now, I'm in Turkey right now. This nigga. What did he say?
My friend is professional cleaner. She showed me a secret how to remove hard water stains in just 1 sec. You need to mix some water, vinegar, alcohol, and dish soap. So let's see how it works. OMG! Look at this. So shiny.
You know, you read about slavery in history books, but reading the wills of slave owners, you see how they really treated their slaves like property, handing them down from one relative to another. Back in the 1800s, that property included slaves. Fulton County Chief Probate Court Judge Kenya Johnson showed me wills her office discovered from back then where slave owners wrote what should happen to their slaves when the owners died.
It is my will and declare that all my Negro slaves divided into 5 lots. I bequeath to my daughter, Margaret Rebecca, my Negro woman, Jen, of dark complexion, and all of her children, to her and to her heirs forever.
Judge Johnson had her staff go through the wills to see what slave owners did with their slaves when she realized she had documents before the Civil War.
221 times per day.
Oh my God.
Now on, there'll simply be all these robots walking around. Feeling nothing, thinking nothing. There'll be nobody left almost to remind them that there once was a species called a human being. The human being before he was extinguished.
I'm at the Denver airport with a new art installation in the center of the airport. We start off here with the world. At the South Pole there is a gate, and then around the world is sand. At the North Pole there's this pole that leads up to this arrow. The arrow points down to what it looks like perhaps a firmament, to a train station. I should also mention the world is depicted as flat over there. From the train station, from the arrow, we come down here. Perhaps a way to get in and out of the world as we know it. Again, surrounded by rocks and sand. Maybe this is where the lizard people live. It's weird.
Do you feel like abortion should be illegal?
No, absolutely not. They should definitely be legal. I wish I was aborted sometimes.
Fuck them kids.
Fuck the kids?
Yeah.
In the late 70s, there was a book by an unknown black female author named Michelle Wallace that was heavily promoted by white society called Black Macho. This book was the beginning of the white-funded black male-bashing, black gender war wave that took off in the 80s. The main person pushing this book was a CIA-affiliated white feminist named Gloria Steinem.
So she kind of really objectified and dehumanized black men in a particular way, but it was a way that was popular that people gravitated toward it. And I often say from that to Oprah, right? Oprah becomes a spigot, so to speak, a faucet that opens that up because she introduces these fairly obscure black feminist talking points to the mainstream. And then from there, it's being digested. So now you have women who will not call themselves feminists, who've never read a feminist book, but have feminist talking points because they're coming out of that mainstream culture that really starts with Indashake and Williams and filters through Oprah. And so that dynamic creates this snowball of black feminism that we're still seeing that's rooted in what we call an anti-black misandry, a hatred really of black men.
Gloria Steinem worked for the CIA while she was in college. She was recruited in college. And she was outed by a feminist group called Red Stockings. Red Stockings blew the lid off of that in the Village Voice.
Norman Lear is a racist, a hypocrite, a thief, and a liar. Okay. Now the LA Times wouldn't print that, but I'll state it emphatically that that's what he is. My name is Eric Monte. I created George and Louise Jefferson. Everybody stood up and applauded. I said I created Good Times. Everybody stood up and applauded. I said I created What's Happening. Everybody stood up and applauded. I said I created The Cosby Show. Everybody stood up and applauded. I said and I wrote the movie Cooley High. Everybody jumped up and cheered. I said and all those white producers that put all those shows, they're living in Beverly Hills, and I'm living in a homeless shelter on the east side. And everybody got quiet.
God is setting you free right now. Is there anything you wanted to renounce?
I want to renounce a generational curse. My child is autistic and he has no brains at all.
Oh shit. Wait, that was really, really good, yeah. Oh my god, oh my god.
This is why you can't trust anything you see from conservatives. The End Wokeness Twitter account claimed that this graph shows that everything that the media has been telling you about interracial crime is a lie, showing that black on white crime is the highest. Turns out, using that exact same source, that just isn't true. In fact, white on white violence is the highest. And if you look at the End Wokeness graph, conveniently none of these bars are white on white crime. I wonder why that is. They do it because they want to make it seem like there's some kind of epidemic of black people killing white people. And for those who say, well, this one is per capita, and this one isn't, well, I did the math for you. Not only does white-on-white crime eclipse black-on-white crime, white-on-white crime dwarfs black-on-white crime. And if we look at the same data that end wokeness graph uses, we can see that the offenders on white crime are 62% of the time white, and only 15% of the time black.
Oh my God! Wow!
The sun is electric, the moon is magnetic. The sun is masculine, the moon is feminine. Conscious, subconscious, fire and water. The moon governs the moonstral cycle. It takes 14 days for the egg to become mature in the ovaries. It takes 14 days from the new moon to the full moon. The tides of the ocean always follow the moon because the moon governs liquids on the earth and in your body. Earth is body, sun is soul, moon is mind. This is why you call people lunatics. Luna is moon. And inside of your mind you have a specific mood, which is moon. Money has mon in it because it only exists in the mind. Money does not really exist. The sun positively charges you, making you want to do things. The moon negatively charges you, making you go to sleep. This is the yin and yang. A month is a month because the moon takes 30 days to go around the 12 zodiac signs. And every time the moon goes into your zodiac, a psychophysical fluid is released from the brain down the spine. You can activate the kundalini and raise this oil back to the pineal gland to use 100% of your brain. If the celestial bodies were truly spinning rocks in space, there's no way they could govern liquids and certain things on the face of the earth and inside of your body. As above, so below. We live inside of an electromagnetic world. The North Pole is the most magnetic point because it's the center of its magnetic field. Above the North Pole is Polaris, the 8-pointed star. This is why compasses are 8-pointed stars, because they point you to the Polaris. Link is in the bio for this Book of Wisdom PDF.
You are essentially giving all those dirty little secrets that HR does not want us to know.
They're definitely dirty. They're not always so little.
And they can be sneaky. If you see family photos on the interviewer's desk and start bonding over having kids, you may have fallen into a secret trap.
There's an HR director that I know, and when you come in for the interview, she's got a picture of 2 adorable little kids that are facing you in the interview. She doesn't have kids.
This is a trick.
What she has is an edict from upper management to not hire moms.
So if you start talking about your children, she knows right away to strike you off the list.
Exactly right.
That's terrible.
And you'll never know.
People, I mean, you must remember that, you know, one of the most terrible crimes in the history of mankind took place in this country. For close to 350 years, black people were murdered, raped, hung, and forced to work for no money. Not for a year, not for 3 years, not for 10 years, not for 50 years, but for 350 years. That's a long, long time, and that debt has not been paid. So Malcolm was the first one, and even before Malcolm, the Nation of Islam was the first organization that was pointing out the fact that there's been an imbalance. And they were looking it right in the eye, and he became their biggest spokesman and their most powerful speaker. And he confronted that issue. He said, this debt has to be paid. This has to be balanced out. This has to be dealt with. Were killed in this country by white people over the course of 300 some odd years of slavery. And we don't really deal with that. Black people don't really deal with it. White people don't really deal with it. You know, we have to really look at what happened here. And in a sense, we all need that.
This is the best preserved stave church in the world, standing on the same site since its construction in 1180. Today, only 28 stave churches remain in Norway, and Borgund is one of them. Scholars believe that there were once between 1,300 and 2,000 of these wonders in the country. The church, dedicated to Andrew the Apostle, is entirely constructed from wood. The term stave refers to the massive vertical wooden posts that support the structure, a distinctive feature of these historical buildings. These staves provided essential support for the building and were often intricately carved, serving both a functional and ornamental purpose. Borgund is built on a basilica plan, adorned with galleries, and a chancel with a semicircular apse. Once inside, you'll be transported to a time when Christianity met ancient Norse traditions, a captivating blend of these two worlds. Richly carved portals and dragon heads on the roof are among the most striking features. The medieval belfry close by is the only one of its kind left in Norway. Over the years, Borgen has seen countless additions and restorations and served as a model during the restoration of several other stave churches.
My daughter was taken from her loving home because the state of California claimed I was abusive. For not affirming her trans identity, I lost my daughter over a name and a pronouns. Even after I promised to call her a male name, it wasn't enough. My daughter was not a boy trapped in a girl's body. He had mental health issues. Against my consent, my daughter was given testosterone instead of therapy. The LGBTQ group used her to raise money for them. The abuse claim against me was finally dropped, but it was too late. By then, my daughter was in a horrible mental and physical pain. My daughter knelt down in front of a train. She was murdered by gender ideology. I beg you, stop pushing gender ideology.
Black people have the greatest genetic potential to produce the black pigment melanin, which gives all skin color. And since we have the greatest, the highest level of genetically determined ability to produce this pigment that can cause white genetic annihilation, and it's only males who can impose sexual intercourse. And so the focus consciously, subconsciously has to zero in on the males. This is why I say that understanding, I'm not talking about institutional racism. I'm talking about a total system construct that develops out of certain patterns of thinking on the part of people who classify themselves.
Don't forget to mention Soul Beat and get peach cobbler absolutely free.
Natural flavors come from nature, but not necessarily from what the label implies. They extract its flavor molecules from the fruit on the tree. Then back in the lab, they mimic Mother Nature's molecules with chemicals.
So what we do is just manipulate them and create with them and give the impression of, papaya.
These are super sniffers, super tasters. They are plotting how to move the flavors they find in this grove to your supermarket shelf, and then on to your stomach.
In our fruit flavors, we're talking about we want, a burst in the beginning and maybe a finish that doesn't linger too much so that you want more of it.
And you don't want a long linger because you're not going to eat more of it if it lingers.
But that suggests something else.
Exactly.
Which is called addiction.
Exactly.
You're trying to create an addictive taste.
It's a good word.
Or something that they want to go back for again and again.
Food companies know that flavor is what makes repeat customers.
And I'm ready to.
The sudden urge to poop while shopping. Does this happen to you? Well, apparently this is a real phenomenon. And I had never heard about this until my followers were telling me about it. And it was described as early as 1985 in Japan, where people would enter bookstores and would have to immediately go number 2. And the person who described it called it the Moroyoki phenomenon. But apparently it's a real thing. So for example, some of my followers were telling me that when they go into a bookstore like Barnes & Noble's or formerly Borders, they would immediately have to use the restroom. It's unclear if this was due to some sort of stimulus like smelling fresh coffee or smelling books or being relaxed. Apparently it also happens when going shopping for clothes like at Target or TJ Maxx. And it could be the anxiety of going shopping is also triggering you to have to use the restroom. And when I was reading articles about it, there are some people that go to specific stores every single day just to be able to use the restroom. There's definitely something there. So if this happens to you, comment down below and let me know what stores trigger you to have to use the restroom.
Eat a 2-week-old unrefrigerated pie. Dumb ways to die.
Do you see this? Do you see this?
Well, let's look. This, if you're anything like I used to be, thought for many, many, many years this was a sign of an old asteroid. But if you think that still, let me just ask you this. If it was an asteroid that came in at an angle, unless it was coming straight down, it wouldn't look like this. It would leave some sort of tail or something different. This is not an asteroid. And if you haven't come across flat Earth yet, I highly recommend you research flat Earth. But you can see a lot of these have been found over the course of thousands of years. And I found the number of them that have been found to be very peculiar. So here's just another example. Does anyone know around how many of these huge craters have been found? Around 200, at least 190 I've researched, and there have been 195 found. And you know what that made me think of? It made me think of how many angels came down to earth with Lucifer. Anyone know that number? It was roughly around 200. Kind of coincidental there, right? Maybe we're in Satan's short season, and maybe those fallen angels that were kept in prison underground have already been released. This
about the asteroid Apophis. Its name draws some attention because the cosmic mass was named after the Egyptian god of chaos, ironically also known as the Great Serpent, who, since he was also the enemy of the sun god Ra or light, existed in darkness.
No need to buy rooting agent. Prepare a cup of warm water. Add a spoonful of sugar, a spoonful of baking soda. Add another spoonful of white vinegar. Cover and ferment for 48 hours. Homemade rooting water is ready. Use this recipe for root irrigation. Help plants to take root quickly, improve the soil.
Everything is free. That's the matrix. When you realize that everything is free, food is free, water is free, shelter is free, it just take a little labor. Every fruit bears seeds, it just take a little labor to make it bear fruit again. Everything is free. Somebody decided that it had a monetary value. Somebody, we know who, decided. We were civil before this. We understood that. We only took what we needed. That's how we had balance. So this matrix is not some like cog in the machine. We're plugged up to some system we got to break free from. No, we got to realize that a small percentage of these people decided to exploit areas and determine what the value is. Gold is literally free. It comes from the earth naturally. Oil is free. Energy is free. It just take a little labor.
Hey, you want to make a bit of money? You should do what I did. Get into farming. See this? I got this selling corn. Comes out of the fucking ground. I couldn't believe it. You see that? It's made of chicken. It's actually made of chicken. You kill it, you got free chicken. You can sell it to people. Or don't kill it. Fucking eggs come out of their arses. Fucking hell.
Let's talk about how California drained the 9th largest lake in America and how this guy made a fortune off it. Today we're talking about Tulare Lake. This was Tulare Lake. It was by far the biggest lake in California and the biggest freshwater lake west of the Mississippi. And for thousands of years, Tulare Lake, Kern Lake, and Buena Vista Lake kept most of the Central Valley as a fertile wetlands. Because of this area was extremely biodiverse and home to one of the biggest Native American tribes in North America, the Yukut tribe. This tribe was amazing at farming and building, and they took care of the land.
The Yokut people lived along the shores of Tulare Lake for at least 2,000 years. In their story of creation, they believe the mountains on each side of the lake, the Sierra and the Coast Range, were scooped from the mud of the lake bottom. Its waters were the source of all life, the abundant plants and wildlife they lived on.
But everything changed after colonizers showed up. In the 1800s, American settlers started moving west. They saw huge potential to farm California. So they started draining the lake and building dams and diverting all the river's water for their farms. And they did it fast. They quickly turned a land that was forest and wetlands into that. Now let's talk about this asshole, the first governor of California, Peter Burnett.
Governor of California, Peter Burnett, did issue an order for the extermination of all Native Americans in the state.
That's right, we took their rip.
The third factor is that of tobacco. As if the Pocahontas story were not incredible enough, we are also expected to believe that Pocahontas' husband, John Rolfe, is the man credited with the modern cultivation of Virginia tobacco. However, the native people of Tampa Bay, Florida, to whom Princess Eulalie belonged, are likely the oldest users of tobacco in the United States, and they had encountered the Spanish on peaceful terms decades prior. Their name, Tocobaga, is potentially the origin for the word tobacco itself. In the first half of this tribe's name, we find the common American word toke, which means to take a drag from a cigarette or joint. In the name of their homeland, Tampa, we find the word tamp, meaning to pack a pipe. Tocobaga is translated in the native tongue as meaning place of the gourds, a possible reference to the crafting of tobacco pipes, for which the Florida natives are also remembered.
Everything that we learned in schools about our own country's founding was a complete lie. We were told that America was named after Amerigo Vespucci. But what if I told you that he actually changed his name to Americo after he had explored America? And that America is actually named after Amaruca, which is the land of the plumed serpent, which was ruled by Amaru, the plumed serpent. Not to mention that our entire Constitution was written after the Gothic Constitution, which is the handbook of Freemason law. And that the majority of every single founder of America was a Freemason or involved in the Illuminati. And that how in the 1990s, Benjamin Franklin's house was literally discovered to have had 19 bodies underneath it. And not to mention, Benjamin Franklin was an avid participator of the Hellfires Club. Do we even need to talk about how the entire city of Washington, D.C. is shaped like a pentagram? And how the Washington Monument actually symbolizes the phallic symbol for Osiris? And how on the dollar bill is the Illuminati sign? And underneath it, it says, "In God we trust." Like, which God are you referring to? How it says in the Bible that we are never supposed to pledge an oath or pledge allegiance to anything but God. The first thing that we do in America is pledge allegiance to the...
I made $12,000 for doing Hustle and Flow. That's all I got for it. This is how dirty the studios are. I sang all of those songs. You can open up the DVD, any of those songs, it says performed by DJ. Who owns DJ? Paramount. Should have said performed by Terrence Howard. We can get rid of the agents, managers, and the lawyers that make you sign conflict of interest waivers. Sign right here and give us 5% of everything you make.
Let me refresh your memory. This is the case in which first the federal district court, then the federal court of appeals held that the White House and assorted other various federal agencies violated the First Amendment of the United States. Illegal actions, unconstitutional actions by coercing and colluding with the biggest social media corporations in the world to suppress and censor protected speech. Let me just read you a few passages. Officials from the White House began communicating with social media companies including Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Google in early 2021. From the outset, that came with requests to take down flagged content. In one email, a White House official told a platform to take down a post ASAP and instructed it to keep an eye out for tweets that fall in the same genre so that they could be removed. In another email, an official told a platform to remove an account immediately and said he could not stress the degree to which this needs to be resolved immediately. The court goes on to find, these are findings by the way, not allegations, findings. Those requests for removal were met. They not only continued continued the platforms to take down content the officials flagged and provided requested data to the White House, they also changed their moderation policies expressly in accordance with the White House's wishes. The court found that the White House successfully pressured and coerced, once again, the biggest corporations in the world to censor Americans.
Look, you think it's odd they slaved you if the slave master ain't served the same God they gave you? 400 years. Hold up. Yeah, hold up. Look. You think it's odd they slave you if the slave master ain't served the same God they gave you? 400 years later, and you hardly stable, and you turn around and beg that same God to save you? Look, word to the sunrise. Homie, save yourself. Everything else, get a thumb drive. The young lives of black queens lost, misplaced, who've been raped, beaten, indoctrinated, and disgraced. We've been wet, shackled, and mutilated, put through degradation, disrespectfully viewed and hated. I mean truly flagrant, treated like shit in this fucking nation. Then in 1850, slaveholders came with this publication called How to Make the Ideal Slave. Now dig the vision. Rule number 1 was unconditional submission. Keep them in place with authority, cause rule number 2 was create inferiority.
What's the first thing they do to make sure that black folk stay in an underclass position, just as you were doing slavery and Jim Crow semi-slavery? Give me the number one thing they would do. First thing they would do is this. They always use very broad, ambiguous headings or terms to confuse black folk, to mislead them, to misdirect them, so they won't know what's going on. Now, this is not an accident. This was first created and used and implemented in 1789, when they were drafting the United States Constitution. And they met up in Philadelphia and said, we're going to craft a Constitution, and but what we're going to do is create a new democracy. We're going to attract people from around the world to come here for new opportunities and new freedoms and new rights. But to do that, we got a problem. How we're going to do that at the same time, our purpose is in building this country is to use black people and their labor to do it. If we craft a Constitution that says we are the cradle of democracy, wouldn't we be hypocritical if we say we're going to build a nation with freedom and opportunities for everyone, at the same time we're preparing ourselves to enslave millions of black folk? And so what they did in the Philadelphia meeting, they closed the doors, pulled the shades, put guards on the doors, and said we got to come up with a scheme on how we're going to best do this. And finally, after a week of talking, discussing, debating the issue about how to craft a constitution, the first constitution of the United States, at the same time use it as a basis for enriching immigrants coming to America, how they're going to do that? They said, here's what we'll do. In the Constitution, we use 2 kinds of language. We'll have some terms, broad terms, we use that specify and particular to whites. We use other terms that will be specifically designed to identify blacks or the black slaves. That's went into the Constitution. And then if you read the Constitution, most people don't understand that ambiguous language and broad terms and how they're being used to maintain race matters. That's the first advice they use. So what they would say in the Constitution, it says things like this: we the people. When they talk about we the people in the Constitution, that signifies it's for white people. They say all the people, they're talking about white people. They say American citizens, they're talking about whites.
The white children, how would they talk to grown black adults?
They would talk to grown black adults just like they was talking to someone their own age.
Can you give me an example of what you mean by that?
Well, whatever they wanted to discuss with children of their own age or their sisters and brothers, they would ask, like my daddy, well, Bluefoot, what do you think about this? Bluefoot, what is this? They would address him the same as they would if it was just a kid of their own age.
Now, for black children, how did they have to address white adults?
If they got up enough nerve to say anything to them, it was Mr. and Mrs.
Now, you said get enough nerve. Do you think a lot of black children they didn't talk to white adults, they fearful, or they told you don't talk to white adults? Like, what was that?
It could have been both of them. They could have been fearful, or they could have been told that, you don't need to talk to them, or just talk to the children or whatever.
What does that say?
Let me see it. It says, "It's almost Christmas and I have noticed that you have been very good this year. Your name is on my present list here in the North Pole. My elves are working hard so we can get your gifts ready."
Mommy, I'll shut my pants.
Hospitals are harvesting organs and you didn't even know it. And this organ's worth 50 grand.
By labeling this organ as medical waste, the verbiage makes the patient assume that they're just throwing it in the garbage, but they're actually turning a major profit by selling it to major biotech companies. This organ is called the placenta, otherwise known as afterbirth. The placenta and especially the umbilical cord are extremely rich in active stem cells. This is why most hospitals cut the umbilical cord within 10 to 15 seconds after birth. To preserve those stem cells, baby. And to sell the magic your body created for their own profit. And yep, you still get charged $20,000 to $40,000 for your birth at the hospital. So basically they owe you money, right? Don't worry. You have legal right and ownership of the organ you created, and you can demand to keep it.
How's my son?
He's going to be all right.
Oh,
thank God.
Finally, some good news There's from no this other way guy. to take that.
That's a great attitude. I gotta tell you, if I was getting this news, I don't know that I'd take it this well.
But you said he was all right.
Yes, he's lost his left hand, so he's going to be all right.
You son of a bitch!
Happy wife, happy life? Well, kind of. But what if we have it just a little bit backwards? What if by keeping our husbands happy, we get it returned to us tenfold? Now, this is just a theory. I'm just some dumb internet idiot. But I'll tell you something. I'm a selfish person. It may not seem like it, but I spent a long time thinking of myself first. And not until recently did I realize it was just making me more miserable. My husband is honestly constantly trying to give me everything that I want and need, but I would still feel anxious and unsatisfied. And it recently dawned on me, am I doing the same for him? And I had a meltdown because I realized, no, I wasn't. I thought I was, but it was just surface level stuff. And ever since then, I've been making a very conscious effort to put myself last. What does my husband need? How can I assist him? How can I make his life better? And I feel so much better.
Finally, somebody else gets it. It is so refreshing when a woman realizes that a man cannot make her happy. Both of you can only ever add to each other's happiness. And I truly believe the reality is that most men know this because of one of two things. One, he's naturally happy himself and no one made him that way. Or two, he tried that path before where he tried to make a woman happy and it did not go well.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
Every holiday the white people got black people running in the store. Valentine's Day, Easter, Halloween. Y'all coming out with a sack. You know? None of them holidays, got anything on it even remotely about us. Martin Luther King, that ain't really no holiday. The white people didn't even like him till he died. They don't like nobody till they dead. Ain't no problem no more. So stop giving them money for every holiday. Express your love to your loved one on some date that you pick out. You don't have to worry about being romantic. You're not the Romans. You can't be romantic. A whole lot of what we try to be, it's not even in us. We're trying to mimic them. So don't be, that kind of a slave. Okay, promote their children to participate in integrated activities.
I'm caught in a storm that I don't need no shelter from. Rain down on me. Let your love just fall. Let your love fall like rain on me. Everything drip, drop, rain down on me. Let your love just shower me. Just rain on me.
Welcome to another holiday shopping season. When the doors opened at this Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania store, the pushing and shoving began. One woman was knocked to the floor and suffered a broken leg. This scene has been repeated in hundreds of stores across the country that advertise the Cabbage Patch Kids. The Cabbage Patch Kids are dolls about 16 inches high. They don't walk, talk, wet their pants, or grow hair. They don't do much of anything. But they have upset the supply and demand cycle to an astonishing degree. There has never been such a first-year demand for a new doll. As far as I'm concerned, they're the worst-looking things I've ever seen.
You know, sheep, bit woolly. It's wool! Pull it off, sell it, fucking grows back again!
Hi, darling.
Sorry about that, you got my message. What?
Yes, but you obviously didn't get my memo, Black. Oh, I did, but I just sort of thought it seemed a bit like a cult. You know, when privileged white people get together dressed in white, it's like the KKK.
The kid that you can't tell no without a problem is not the kid whose parents always said yes to connection. It's the kid whose parents use stuff and experiences to replace connection. No, I won't go to the park with you or paint with you on the weekends, but here's that toy you wanted. I can't make it to your plays and your sporting events or your dance recitals, but you have the best clothes and shoes in the school. You can't bring me your mistakes or talk about your emotions in any meaningful way, but here's tickets to that concert. The stuff and the experiences replace the connection that the kids should have with the parents. There are kids you have to buy stuff in order to prove your love because it's the only way they've been shown love. Now, don't get me wrong, a lot of kids are bad at hearing no. It's just a part of growing up. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to tell them no arbitrarily just to toughen them up. I'll tell my children no to stuff that's impractical, unwarranted, or unsafe, but I'm not going to tell them no to stuff just to prepare them for the world. I'm going to prepare them for the world by helping them become the fullest, most secure versions of themselves that they could be. I'm not going to prepare them for the world by emulating the world. The world is good enough at that. With me, they're going to have safety, connection, and love in such abundance that when they go places where those things don't exist, or when I have to deny them something, they know it's not about them or their self-worth, and they can handle that.
Did y'all hear about why they started saying the oppressors, the slave masters, the slave abusers, the slave beaters, why they started saying good morning? It is to my understanding they started saying good morning because when black folks got their children kidnapped, killed, or husband killed, or wife killed, they cried all night. Men and women just cried all night. And when they would wake up, the slave master asked them, did they have a good morning? Insulted them and said, have enough mourning for the loss.
There's a clear pattern that Israel is targeting the best and brightest of Gaza. They are going, as you said, they're going after everyone who might provide a way of living a human life in Gaza. So they're going after lawyers, they're going after medics, they're going after teachers and journalists. Yes, well, one of the most, it's all so horrific, it's beyond words, but Al Jazeera was shut down in Israel, and then the day after, they bombed and killed the family of the Al Jazeera correspondent in Gaza. So that was a statement. It was saying, we will kill your family. They didn't even kill him, they killed his family. So I think that this is part of what needs to change is the narrative is that this is none of these are mistakes, that they're targeting the best and brightest of Gaza because they want to destroy any remnants of human life in Gaza.
The Titanic was actually a hit job. So basically what happened was all the richest people in the world in 1912 were supposed to be on this ship. You had the Rothschilds and their JP Morgan. All of these guys are supposed to be on this ship, but there's also another guy who was on that ship. His name was Mr. Uster. He was the richest man in America at that time. He owned 40% of every mortgage in America. Imagine 40%. This guy's a gangster. I'm not saying he's a good guy. But basically, this guy was in the way of the Federal Reserve. They wanted to create a central bank, the Rothschilds, and they couldn't. They already owned Europe, but they didn't own America yet. Yeah. They can't just take someone out of that importance. You know, this guy's just too important to shoot. So what they basically did, they made this big deal, everyone going on the ship. Yeah. And then in the last seconds, all the Rothschilds people exited the ship. Yeah. The ship sunk. All of a sudden, the richest guy in America died on the ship. Yeah. And then next year, 1913, they started the Federal Reserve Bank because there was no more opposition to it.
The pig's waste falls through slats in the floors of the sheds they are forced to live in. It is then pumped into giant waste pits, which leach into rivers and streams, and is pumped out unfiltered onto fields, further polluting the environment and neighboring health.
When you go back and you look at where these hog facilities are located, there's a disproportionate number of them that are located near communities of color, low-income communities. It is definitely a human rights issue.
My sister, she have asthma, and her brother, he have asthma. He's 3.
and we don't know what she might have. I have asthma, I have sinus, I have sarcoidosis, that's the bacteria, and I have a pacemaker, which is sick sinus syndrome. But you know, mostly everybody in this neighborhood got asthma or either cancer. My neighbor there died from cancer probably just last year. My nephew down the street, he's got cancer. He's in terminal cancer, stage 4. Not a smoker, not a drinker. And it's not in his lungs. It's in his lymph nodes. I said, if you live here and saw the way they do, you don't eat no pork. Well, I don't eat bacon because I know where it comes from. When they die, they go into a box and they decompose because they swell from stretching heat. A truck come and pick them up, take them to the processing plant in Rose Hill, round them up into feed.
Why is it coming out that the NBA is low-key dissing the big three and stopping them from getting sponsors? That's so unnecessary because you have George Gervin, Gary Payton, Lisa Leslie, Rick Mahorn, Dr. J. All the coaches in the big three are your Hall of Fame players. Why wouldn't you support that? Oh, rewind it back. All the players that's playing in it are ex-NBA players. Why wouldn't you support that? Because it's a black man that owns it? It's just common sense. You know what I'm saying? You should support that. You use those same NBA veterans that's coaching these games on all your commercials. When y'all go to Africa, y'all bringing all these same coaches that coach the big three. So why wouldn't you support it? It's not their fault that players fall on hard times. It's definitely not the NBA fault. They gave these guys a lot of money. We should have invested and did the right thing. But Q has created another form of professional basketball where guys that did fall on hard times, that can still play, can make $100,000 in 10 weeks playing basketball. Why wouldn't you support that?
My Roman Empire is the fact that the first ever Americans got so bent out of shape that we had to pay up to 3% in taxes, that they literally started their own country, and now in that very same country we're taxed on our income, we're taxed depending on the state we live in, on our properties, on everything that we buy, on everything. It's all our money pretty much goes to taxes, and I just want to know what they would think about that.
Are you aware of the new legislation that mandates kill switches in all cars starting in 2026? Yeah, it was snuck inside a recently passed $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill and is a proposal to have a lockout device to be installed in all new cars. This is no joke and has already passed Congress and the House. So that means it's in play, it's the law until something changes that. A quote from law enforcement today commented that the infrastructure bill includes drunk driving kill switch in all cars, and some worry that government will abuse it. Drunk driving appears to be a cover for what can occur. The possibility for abuse is clearly something which bears watching. This could also give access to outsiders with spyware and hackers. Electronics, it can be misused by the government, preventing you from driving during lockdowns and national health emergencies, and opens up access to criminals with bad intentions, as computer hackers could seize control of these vehicles. And this is a huge safety concern. And finally, elected officials are realizing this is a more serious issue than they thought when they passed the bill. Now take a closer look at this infrastructure bill they jammed through. Section 24220. This mandates installation of equipment to listen to in-car noises and conversation, yes, monitor your eyes, and kill switches to automatically turn off your car. It states all new cars in the United States will be required to install this kill switch by 2026.
1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 بستعجل لازم اوصل البيت
يا جماعه اطلع ايوه ايوه
Gas right there, shake them treads, shake them treads, shake them treads, shake them treads.
Now look at the staggering amount of money that has been spent to combat homelessness. New data shows California has spent $17.5 billion over the last 4 years. In that same time frame, the state's homeless population grew.
Well, tonight, analysts say with that $17.5 billion, the state could have theoretically just paid the rent for every unhoused person in California for those 4 years.
The Beta Israel, also known as the Ethiopian Jews, have lived in Ethiopia for over 2,000 years. They have their own unique culture, customs, and language, which is a mixture of Hebrew, Aramaic, and Amharic. Beta Israel appear to have been isolated from mainstream Jewish communities for at least a millennium. They suffered religious persecution, and a significant portion of the community was forced into Christianity during the 19th and 20th centuries. Those converted to Christianity came to be known as the Falashmira. The Beta Israel made contact with other Jewish communities in the later 20th century. Following this, a rabbinic debate ensued over whether or not the Beta Israel were Jews. After halakhic Jewish law and constitutional discussions, Israeli officials decided in 1977 that the Israeli law of return was to be applied to the Beta Israel. The Israeli and American governments mounted Aliyah, immigration to Israel, transport operations. At the end of 2019, there were 155,300 people of Ethiopian descent in Israel. Approximately 87,500 were born in Ethiopia, and 67,800 were Israeli born with fathers born in Ethiopia. Despite facing persecution and discrimination, the Beta Israel have managed to preserve their identity and heritage. They have a strong sense of community and faith, and many have now immigrated to Israel, where they have made a significant contribution to the country's society and culture.
I remember when we became African Americans, because I worked in the black marketing department at Coca-Cola, where we were selling Coke to our people. And the vice president came in and said, okay, we are now African Americans. We were like, alrighty, African. I heard this white woman was sitting next to me, and she said to another white woman, they don't know who they are.
Wow.
That's what I said. And I'm gonna take my wig off, and I'll be honest, I did not know what to say to her. I didn't know what to say to her.
The binding, book binding in Ethiopia. The cover, wooden board cover, you know, as you see. Everything is made at home. So, this is 15th century manuscripts. Amazing that, you know, people in the 15th century, were they, aware of color? All the saints, even the Virgin, is painted black, you know? Today, even today, you don't find such paintings in churches, always, you know, a bright color, not black color. So, it has to be studied very well, you know, this type of documents. Look, even the evangelist, this is Matthew, you know, and the harag or the decorations, all this, you know.
Watch this. This is a compilation of Benjamin Netanyahu warmongering. Watch this.
If you take away the Soviet Union and its chief proxy, the PLO, international terrorism would collapse.
If you take out Saddam's regime, I guarantee you that it will have enormous positive reverberations on the region. Obviously, we like to see a regime change, at least I would, in Iran, just as I would like to see in Iraq. The question now is a practical question. It's not a question of whether Iraq's regime should be taken out, but when should it be taken out? It's not a question of whether you'd like to see a regime change in Iran, but how do it...
Are there any other nations that you would recommend that the United States launch preemptive attacks upon at this point?
The answer is categorically yes, is Iraq and Iran. But a third nation, by the way, is Libya as well. Libya is trying very rapidly.
What you are about to witness is truly shocking. It's deja vu.
At least 18 Palestinians died that we know of. The Israelis have also been destroying more Palestinian homes. President Bush characterized the operation as very troubling, and it has been condemned by the United Nations. ABC's John Yang has just returned from Gaza.
Israeli forces moved en masse into the Rafah refugee camp early today. Helicopters fired missiles into the densely populated area. Tanks and bulldozers search for tunnels the army says are used to smuggle weapons from Egypt. Israel's top general said today he knows innocent Palestinians are suffering.
The Palestinians aim to prefer the smuggling operation rather than civilian life.
Israeli tanks and bulldozers blocked the roads leading to Rafah on Monday. The Israeli army has sealed it off from the rest of Gaza to keep wanted militants from escaping.
way men are so addicted to the strip club and addicted to pornography, he recruits strippers, then they become his girlfriend or become his baby mother. It ain't even about that she's a dancer. It's about these women are taught and trained how to please a man, how to stroke ego. So even the conversation with a dancer for that man is going to be different than the conversation with his wife.
Yeah.
Because your wife does not practice stroking your ego. Your wife going to be real with you. She going to be blunt with you. Yes, she could be sexy or whatever, but on the average, she's not sitting there, oh, you're just so smart.
But don't you think men need that?
We do need it.
From their women, they need
We do need
that.
it. But you don't want it from who you see as
not your partner,
the bottom of the totem pole. No, like men objectify dancers. Dancers are not put on a pedestal. Dancers are put on a pole as an object of a man's lust. A man is not going to get his ego stroked in the literal sense by someone he looks down on. Is what we are normalizing: pornography, threesomes, strip clubs, a man having a hall pass, is what we are normalizing. Is this truly normal?
Yeah.
Or are we perverted? Because the thing about it is, and what I tell men all the time, would you preach this to your daughter?
Yeah.
The final goal is to eradicate humanity as we know it. Once you understand the final destination, it becomes much easier to look back and identify the psychological conditioning, the biological tampering, the cultural grooming, and the educational prepping that we have been subjected to for decades in preparation to making us accept a post-human future. It takes a lot of physical and psychological abuse to get an intelligent species like ours to agree to its own extinction. Most, if not all, that has transcended in the last 60 years was designed to get us closer to accepting such a dystopian reality. Whether you care to accept it or not, we live in a hyper-controlled matrix where our perception of reality is meticulously planned, managed, and executed in order to control and steer us in whichever direction they wish. And the direction is a post-human world. For this, they first needed to destabilize, dehumanize, and demoralize humanity through every means possible. The destruction of the nuclear family, children being indoctrinated by the state, abortion, the eradication of God and spirituality from education, life in megacities and away from nature, toxic food.
600 health professionals and scientists, including Dr. Arvid Carlson, a Nobel laureate of medicine, are calling on Congress to ban the use of fluoride immediately. Among the petitioners, Bob Carton, a former Environmental Protection Agency scientist. He says fluoridating water was a mistake from the beginning.
It was a foolish thing to do years ago. They didn't have enough information. They hadn't really been tested.
In fact, a 2005 Centers for Disease Control study found too much fluoride has caused irreversibly discolored teeth in 1 out of 3 children. And a major report by the National Academy of Sciences says toxic levels can lead to severe, permanent pitting of the enamel in children. Fluoride can also build up in the bones to cause pain, stiff joints, and skeletal abnormalities when they get older.
It's a cumulative poison. It just gradually builds up and it gradually causes harm.
But the EPA isn't about to make any quick decisions.
Check this out.
I've always found most exciting about the hologram effect and hologram illusion industry is the ability to beam anybody from anywhere to anywhere in real time. So what we've decided to do was we shrunk these giant hologram stage apparatus from big arena stage pieces into what you see right here. This is Portal. It's the size of a vending machine. It fits in the corner of a room, and it beams in a 4K resolution image in real time. You can create, you can beam anybody from anywhere to anywhere in real time. And when you're looking into the camera, you're looking into your audience's eyes. So if you're an educator, or if you're a politician, or if you're an inspirational speaker or a religious leader, you could beam from the safety and security of your own campaign headquarters or from your own judges' chambers or wherever you are, into anywhere that you need to be in real time.
I worked in this Thai restaurant where sometimes the owner would make this mango ice cream. It was delicious. But she didn't do it very often because it was pretty labor intensive. And I remember this one time a regular came in and he was asking her for the recipe. And she said no. Even with the recipe, you wouldn't be able to do it because you don't have enough calmness inside your heart. And I think about that all the time.
I want you all to hear 8 out of thousands of reasons Black people were lynched, according to the Equal Justice Initiative's report of reported lynchings. John Stoner was lynched in Doss, Louisiana in 1909 for swinging the white man who killed his cow. Frank Dodd was lynched in DeWitt, Arkansas in 1916 for annoying a white woman. Ernest Green and Charlie Lang, both 14, were lynched in Shibuya, Mississippi in 1942 after a white girl said they were threatening. Oliver Moore was lynched in Edgerton County, North Carolina in 1930 for frightening a white girl. Henry Patterson was lynched in LaBelle, Florida in 1926 for asking a white woman for a drink of water. Elizabeth Lawrence was lynched in Birmingham, Alabama in 1933 for reprimanding white children who threw rocks at her. Jesse Thornton was lynched in Laverne, Alabama in 1940 for addressing a white police officer without the title Mr. A Black construction worker was lynched at Camp Blanding, Florida in 1941 for insisting that a white co-worker return his shovel.
Right there on the front of the car. Stay still.
I ain't doing shit, but I got gun right there. I'm not doing that.
Oh yeah.
I'm saying what you saying. Oh yeah, fuck. I'm not. Oh my god.
Fuck up.
Okay. Oh, down. Oh my fuck. Oh my god. Oh my god.
You want it again?
No man.
Shut the fuck up. You was big and bad. Shut your bitch ass up.
With a narcissistic psychopath, he fucks you up and then he makes you think it's...
The side the cops protect during protests is never the right side of history. It was true during the civil rights movement. It was true during the BLM protests. Like, if you're still unsure about what side to support at this point, just look at the side the cops have their back to, okay? They're in the wrong. Like, it really is that simple.
I was thinking yesterday, we're not allowed to culturally appropriate in different ways. We can't use blackface or we can't do blackface, but I couldn't even wear like an ethnic outfit if it wasn't a part of my ethnicity. That's like a big no-no nowadays. But yet we can appropriate the opposite sex. So I can just wear women's clothing, make some long hair, put a bunch of makeup on, and I can say, not only am I a woman, I demand that you affirm to me that I am a woman and I can do everything that a woman can do, including going to a bathroom that's designated for women, including getting awards that women have fought for. There's not only no problem with appropriating women in that way, but it's actually celebrated. All I'm asking is for some consistency here at the very least.
I don't like this. Mark Zuckerberg and Meta are asking the courts to declare the Federal Trade Commission unconstitutional. Yeah, this thing, the thing that protects us against people like Mark Zuckerberg and Meta. Here is some of the text from the suit. Meta respectfully requests that this court declare that certain fundamental aspects of the commission structure violate the U.S. Constitution and that these violations render unlawful the FTC proceedings against Meta. The suit is also asking the court to stop the FTC from ordering the social media group to stop collecting revenue on data from people under the age of 18. They want to keep collecting data on minors.
See, if you look up, that one, this view, we call crown shyness. Crown, like king wearing, and then shy, they don't meet. Yeah, so this view we call crown shyness. It's been formed by the Borneo camphor tree. Yeah, this one. So, as you can see there, the lining. If you see this view from top of the hill, you will see that like a broccoli.
Wait, I know this one. The freezer door is open.
Exactly, and if a customer weren't paying attention, they could run right into it.
Or, if an infant were to crawl in, and then some guy walked by and shut the door, that baby could freeze to death in 20, 30 minutes.
Uh-huh.
Or suffocate.
Yeah, I guess that too.
We are living in a villain's world, and they designed it perfectly. We eat the food they give us, vote for one of two people that they tell us to, and watch the movies that they show. They take our attention as soon as we reach age 5, and they never give it back. We go to school for 8 hours a day learning what they want us to. They scold us until we obey, and then they praise us when we do. They make us form a habit of waking up and spending our entire day in a building that we wouldn't choose, so that when we get older, we are willing to do the same. Following orders becomes comfortable when we spend our childhood doing what we're told. So when we're older, we hesitate to stray outside the norm. They tell us that we should do anything we can to attend a university, because if we don't, we will fail. They manipulate us into financial dependency at a young age so that we stay liable to the system. They've given us a currency that only has value because they say it does, and we receive it by working at a business that they own. Their millions become billions while the rest of us are forced to sacrifice our time for a minuscule fraction of what our work gains for them.
Prado says it's not illegal to create a biological lab.
Oh, we're now learning more about a biological lab in Reedley that's been shut down by the Fresno County Department of Public Health. Fox 26 reporter Rich Rodriguez explains what kind of testing took place for months in the warehouse no one in town says they knew about.
From October 2022 until spring 2023, this warehouse at 850 I Street in Reedley was operating a biological lab. It was a well-kept secret. After seeing signs of activity there, the city of Reedley asked Fresno County Department of Public Health to investigate.
Just a significant amount of over like 36 refrigerator freezers located
by this abandoned warehouse in Reedley, that a discovery so shocking was made that it left local health officials stunned. Materials including human blood, unidentified tissue, and other unknown substances. The discovery was made after a local code enforcement officer noticed this garden hose poking out a back wall of the building.
Frankly, we knew that that shouldn't be there, and when she went to go investigate, she found that there was activity or operation or something happening within that building.
The city then obtained several search warrants to enter the building. Once inside, no staff was located, but
there was a special room that was built housing about 1,000 mice, 1,000 white lab mice.
And the reason the mice were in the lab was jaw-dropping.
Through their statements, that they were doing some testing on laboratory mice there that would help them support developing the test kits that they had on site.
Happens to a civilization that poisons their own children. That's what you have to ask yourself about America. It's like America's got Coca-Cola for first graders and then Ritalin on the other side. They're like, you're not going to believe this. We got some hyper kids. Let's give them 40 grams of sugar when they're a little 6-year-old body. And then let's get a therapist and a psychologist to diagnose them as ADD. I'm going, this is a destruction of a civilization happening right in front of you. Because most cultures, even ones we think of crazy ones, they didn't poison their own children. Even like the Nazis that nobody likes, they weren't poisoning children. They did send their kids all to die in war, so maybe that was worse. But America's poisoning its own.
This exercise now from the side, I push down and roll up. Flex, force it down. Come up.
You've just learned in this tape 3 critical areas of life and self-defense. I'll leave you with one thought. It pertains to nations, it pertains to the individual. First a warrior, or all else is folly.